Hey guys, what's up?
It's still winter here in Northern California. Fishing's a little tough on the Delta right now, I'll admit. There's a few storms rolling through, water's still really cold. So I thought I'd do something a little different today, an unboxing. So what I've got today is the Gambler Lures Gear Up box. This one's called the Flipping Crazy Gear Up box. Now, when I hear flipping, I immediately think about punching. So let's get into it. First up is the Stinger. This is by far my favorite bait. It's the biggest bait in the package, but it's my favorite because I caught my personal best last summer on this exact bait. It was a 7 1/4 right out of the mat. It was just fantastic. The bait is pretty bulky. It's definitely going to be a larger presentation. It puts off a lot of vibration. It's got a lot of action. Pretty much everything you want to go for those bigger fish. And it comes in two different colors. Kind of the go-to color is the green pumpkin. And this is actually green pumpkin with blue flake. I like the blue flake because I think, at least in my mind, it mimics bluegill. And we get a lot of bluegill as well as crawdads under the mats and around the grass out on the delta. So really high confidence color for me, high confidence bait. The other color that mine came with, at least, is Friendly Fire, which is kind of a light June bug color, kind of a plum color. And I don't know why, but for some reason June bug works on the delta. I've caught a lot of big fish, big meaning 4 pound and up, on June bug colored punching baits. So that's the other color you get. The next bait you get is the Ugly Otter. This is the 4-inch Ugly Otter, and this is probably the bait that I throw the most when I'm punching, only because I use it for a couple different things. I actually prefer to punch grass as opposed to floating vegetation like hyacinth. So I'm really punching hydrilla more than anything else, submerged hydrilla. And this is actually the bait I use to punch hydrilla. I also use it as kind of a search bait. I don't really know. I don't fish enough like every day. I don't get out every day. I get out maybe once a week, twice a week at the most. And the fish kind of change position depending on the tides, depending on the weather, depending on a lot of conditions. So this is just a good way to kind of figure out where they're positioned. So I use this a lot. I rig it on with a 1 ounce tungsten weight and just put my head down and start punching. The other thing is I actually rig it with a 3/0 Trocar hook, only because I feel like it's probably the smallest hook I can get away with, and still have kind of that hookup ratio. I have lost a couple fish on a 3/0, and I know a lot of people are going to say, oh, you should be using a 4/0 or a 5/0 or 6/0. I just haven't really missed that many fish using a 3/0, and I just kind of like that smaller profile hook, just for getting through the vegetation. So say what you will about that, but it comes in two different colors. Shadow blue, which is kind of a black and blue with blue flake. Great for mimicking early season craws. And then ripe melon. So ripe melon is kind of in between watermelon and green pumpkin. So I would say it's more like a translucent green pumpkin. I still think it's dark enough that in darker situations or even in clear water, it's still going to be a very natural presentation. It's going to do a good job of mimicking most of the stuff that swims in the delta, which is bluegill and crawfish. So really high confidence color, high confidence bait for me. Next up is the Why Not. So apart from those two first baits, the next few baits I'm going to show you are really more, I wouldn't say finesse presentation, but kind of smaller profile presentations, which I think are going to help in certain situations. One is basically if you're just not getting bites, it may help to just downsize and go to something with either a little less action or a little less bulk to it. The other situation is when, especially later in the summer, when the floating mats tighten up a little bit, they're a little bit more dense. It's a little harder for the bait to get through, especially if it's bulky or has a lot more appendages. This bait, the Why Not, doesn't have a lot of appendages, and it's got a little bit of action. It's got pinchers at the end. But I think this bait will do a good job of getting through the mats, and also maybe picking up some bites where the fish are just not keyed in on the bulkier presentation. Again, go-to color, green pumpkin, great color. And then the other one is Junebug Shadow Blue. Again, I can't say enough about throwing Junebug on the Delta. For some reason, it just works. So you also get the Burner Craw, again, kind of along the same lines of downsizing the bait a little bit. It still has a little bulk to it, you can kind of see here, but it also has a lot of action in the claws. So one thing I don't do a lot is dead sticking, and I could probably pick up a few more bites during the day if I did do that, and this would be a great bait for that. So I'm going to use this bait to try to work on that and just be a little more patient, I guess. It comes in Killer G, which is basically a dark green pumpkin with candy flake. I don't know if the camera's picking it up, but I think this bait will work out really well. It also comes in black and blue glitter, just as the name describes. You also get Crawdaddy, and Crawdaddy again is a smaller profile bait, but this one actually has more appendages on it than the Burner Craw. I think this one is definitely going to be more finessey, more for tighter mats. Looking forward to trying this out. It's going to come in Silver Shadow and black and blue glitter. And finally, you get the BB Cricket. I know the guys out in Florida have been having a lot of success with this one. I think this is, I think of this as kind of the ultimate finesse punching bait. Really looking forward to trying this out, especially, there's been days in the summer where you just can't get a punch bite, and everything is just setting up right. The current is right, the tide is right. Low pressure day, hot out. Fish should just be under the mats, and they're not, or they're not biting. They're there, but they're not biting, and I think this actually could be the key to getting a few more bites. It's going to come in Back At Ya, which is kind of a black-blue swirl, and green pumpkin black swirl. So that's it for the baits. You get 12 baits, which is pretty incredible for $60. You also get a few other things. You get 4 packets of punch skirts. I typically don't throw with a punch skirt, but I may start doing it. I think it's a good way to do a few things. One is it's a good way to bulk up the presentation. The other thing is, if you are dead sticking it, it's going to give it a little more action when it's just sitting on the bottom under the mat. The third thing is and I haven't experienced this, but a lot of people say that the skirt actually helps you get through some of the floating mats a little bit better, especially if you squirt a bunch of scent on it, the kind of the gooier scents. So it's another option just to change up the presentation. It's going to come in green pumpkin, watermelon candy flake, an Alabama craw color. I would probably use that later in the summer when the crawfish start turning a little bit more orange, and then black and blue glitter. Finally, you also get a 5-liter dry bag labeled with the Gambler logo. This is pretty cool, actually. Recently, I've been getting into building individual first aid kits, IFAKs, and I have one for the boat. And I think this would be a great place to keep it, because obviously if your first aid kit gets wet, it's not going to be much good to you. I typically carry a knife with me just for utility's sake, and I always have my phone with me, so this is a great way to keep all this valuable stuff dry and safe. Well, that's it. If you want more details on this Gear Up box, the Flippin' Crazy Gear Up box, or if you want to just order it, I'll leave a link down in the description. Please like, subscribe, and share this video. And I'll see you next time. Thanks a lot.